Guitar tips, guitar tips, just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. Hello and welcome back. This is Guitar Tips. My name is Adam Levy. This is my weekly video blog series. I post a new tip here each and every Friday. And you can subscribe. There's a big red button down below. Makes it very easy to do. I hope that you will. Today's guitar tip is find the sweet spot. Find the sweet spot. And of course, on the guitar and in music, there are many sweet spots to be found. And I hope that you will find them all, except maybe there's one that eludes you, that keeps you chasing it down. That's a good thing, I think, to have some sweet spot on the guitar that you just can spend your whole life trying to figure out. That's great engine to drive your musical journey. What the hell am I talking about? Anyway, okay, we're going to talk about three specific areas of sweetness and spotness here. One is dynamic, and one is harmonic, and the other is register. So let's look at all three of those. So the dynamic sweet spot, I'll start there, means, of course, the guitar you can play very quietly. You can tune it if you like. There's always that one string you spend your whole life chasing it down. Anyway, the guitar is meant to, sound. If you hit it too soft, below a certain point, it doesn't really speak out. It just kind of sounds like, a piece of plastic hitting some metal strings, and that's more of a special effect than music making. So you want to find a spot where things start to speak, and then you can get louder, and then up. Once you get to a certain point, you're not really getting a musical sound out of the guitar. Then it just sounds like, again, a piece of plastic hitting a bunch of metal wires, strapped to a drawer from your, kitchen or something like that. Most of the time, you don't want to sound like, a piece of plastic hitting a bunch of wires strapped to a drawer from your kitchen, nor do you want to sound like, a mouse crawling around in that exact same drawer. You want to find the center point where the guitar speaks really well. You can hear the overtones, and you've got somewhere to go. You can get a little louder if you want to. You can get a little softer. And especially in a recording environment when you're playing in front of a microphone, and then this is just as true for electric guitar. Little changes, little deviations from that sweet spot can actually mean a lot. So you would do well, once you find the real sweet spot, the dynamic sweet spot, to spend some time really playing in that zone. I remember years ago reading in Mick Goodrick's book, The Advancing Guitarist, he talked about actually, setting up a little recording setup with a VU meter. We don't even have like the old-fashioned, this kind of VU meter, but we still have digital meters that read out. And he would practice trying to play while keeping the level really constant. And maybe that sounds boring or restrictive, but I would encourage you to do whatever your version of that is. If you don't have a VU meter, or if you're just opposed to it, that's fine. But really, try and find a spot where you're making the guitar speak in a nice way, and then get a little louder, a little softer. You don't have to punch notes out maybe as much as you might think, and you don't have to whisper maybe as much as you might think. Just little changes can do a lot. So that's about finding the dynamic sweet spot. And I hope that in that process you will record yourself and and really listen to what's going on. Now, the harmonic sweet spot, this has to do with density and the density of chords and the type of chords you play. Last week we looked at Tennessee Waltz, and I threw in some chord substitutions. But because the song is kind of simple and folksy in nature, I wasn't throwing in, big, 5-part jazz chords without the roots in them. I tried to keep it pretty much limited to the palette of chords that made sense from where we started. If you start with, I was waltzing with my darling, it's just a little strange, but I see people do this all the time. They'll start with this chord and then throw in some, when it says D major 7, maybe they'll go to like this chord, which is, doesn't even matter what it is. It's the wrong chord is what it is. It doesn't really belong, at least to my ears, in the same narrative as that other chord. Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't do an arrangement of Tennessee Waltz or whatever song you want to do, where you can harmonize it any way you want, reharmonize it any way you want. But just, I would say don't break character, if I can quote Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder. Think about the harmonic character of what it is you're trying to convey. What's inherent to the song and what's inherent to the style and what's inherent to your arrangement. This is a 3-part chord. This is a 4-part chord, meaning 4 distinct notes. This is a 5-part chord. I don't know if I can play a 6-part D major something or other chord, but let's see if I can. Yeah. So this has 6 distinct notes: D, F sharp, D, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, B, E. Okay, so that's a 6-part. This is my 5-part. Excuse me, this is the 5-part chord that I played. D, F sharp, A, C sharp, E. I'm getting a little double stop here. This is a 4-part. This is 3-part. So those are different kinds of harmonic density. And I would just be mindful that you don't flip-flop back and forth too much between those. Or if you do, that it's with intention and you're not just grabbing, some chord because you learned it, earlier in the day and you really want to, throw that new chord in. Try and find a really great setting for that new chord. Okay, so that's finding a harmonic sweet spot. Maybe you decide you're going to do Tennessee Waltz in 4-part kind of chords. So, I guess you could play, you could start with D6. Instead of just plain old D, you could start with D6. Now, I'm really only playing 3 different pitches here: D, B, another D, and then F sharp. But it can still sound to your ear and your sort of imagination as a 4-part chord, because normally when you have the 6th, it is part of a 4-note chord, root 3, 5, and 6. So suggestion of 4-part, and then this D major 7 is 4 notes, and then you could play D7, you could play D9, you could, this is another D7 chord that's got 4 different notes. F sharp, C, D, E. But now I'm implying I've got that 9th in there, so I'm getting into a suggestion of 5-part harmony. There's a whole lot to consider there, and I don't want you to get bogged down with overthinking it, but just think about it. So find a harmonic sweet spot, and try and stay there within whatever you're trying to do. Then there's the register sweet spot, which is, when we're sitting by ourselves, it's easy to think of the guitar as this big, you know, area to cover. We've got just already that's an octave, 2 octaves, 3 octaves. There's a lot of ground to cover here. But you don't always have to play the whole guitar. You can think about just little areas. If I go back to Tennessee Waltz again, I don't know, we're there, so let's stay more there, or go more there, or whatever. So here's D, D major 7, D7, G6, I don't know why G6, but I just like it, D, B minor, A7, or you could go E7, A7. Sounds like a little barbershop quartet or something. So it's sort of about voice leading. It's about thinking about each of these as a distinct voice and not as just some grip, but trying to get from D, let's say from D to G. We can go just like that. You don't have to go all the way up here. You don't have to go down here. If you're playing this little first inversion D, you've got G here, you've got G here, you've got a G with no third here, you've got a G add 9 here, you've got G add 4 here, playing G, B, C. You could play this, which is just another kind of timbre of this, G, B, D, G, D, B with open B. Sometimes when I go from D to G, I might just lift this finger up, and now I'm playing G, D, and F sharp. So I'm playing the root, 5th, and 7th of the G, and then back to D. So I'm just looking for small movements that get me from one chord to the next. If I wanted to go to an A chord from D to A, that's pretty clear. You could go to this long A, which is a E, A, E. I say it's a long A because it's a stretch. I could go to A7. I could go for A sus2. I could go for A add 2. Here's an A9 voicing without the root, G, C sharp, B. Now this, you could look back to the previous part of the same tip where now I'm kind of mixing my densities, but I'm thinking, I have a different focus right now. I'm just thinking about voice leading and thinking about a certain area. So that's playing, you know, trying to get to some different harmony in one little area. You could certainly play down low and do the same thing. That's a 1 chord, that's a 4 chord, that's a 5 chord, that's a 1 chord in D. There's your B minor. Here's your E7, E minor 7, A7, augment it if you wanted to. Anyway, you can play with it, but you know, that's low register. We have this register, you could do it up high. So once you find a sweet spot, don't be afraid to stay in it. Like, it's going to speak better on the microphone if you stay in one area. It's going to be easier if you're playing with other people for them to kind of imagine where you're going. That's a good thing. It helps with a little bit of musical ESP if you're not all over the place. Try and play something that makes musical sense, which often has to do with connecting the dots and not just having dots all over the place. I know there are dots all over the place here, but work on connecting them. Okay, this is a long-winded tip, but I hope that you found it valuable and interesting and entertaining. Find the sweet spot. Find the sweet spot, and then explore the sweet spot. That's the addendum to the tip. My name is Adam Levy. This is Guitar Tips. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned and take good care.